She laughed like there was no pain in the world, like all anyone ever needed was a warm home, a green dress, and promises whispered in a noisy bar. He believed it. In the comfort, the care, the idea of a family you build brick by brick, like a house, solid, deliberate, full of love. Then everything went quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that hides a stranger's voice, a tender laugh, a name that isn't yours, one unexpected visit, and a whole life splits at the seams, revealing its rotten core. There won't be screaming, no dramatic scenes, just cold resolve and a camera in the corner that sees everything. And when the performance is over and the masks have fallen, only one question remains. What do you do when your home is no longer a fortress, but the site of betrayal? The answer sits on the tip of your tongue, or the tip of a suitcase zipper. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. There was a time I thought Sable's laugh was the most beautiful sound in the world. It had this lightness, like nothing could ever weigh her down. I chased after it like a man crawling across a desert, chasing the shimmer of water. Marrying her felt like stumbling into something sacred. We first crossed paths at a birthday bash for a mutual friend, crammed bar, music blasting. She wore a plain green dress and looked at me like my words carried weight. Said she dreamed of a peaceful life, slow mornings, home-cooked meals, kids in the yard. I told her I wanted the same. We tied the knot in under a year. Fast. Maybe. But I never second-guessed it. Half a year after we wed, she left her job in marketing, told me she wanted to focus on starting a family. I was doing well in construction management, so money wasn't an issue. She kept the place spotless, always met me at the door with a soft smile. Dinner ready, lights dimmed, something mellow playing on the stereo. The house felt like a postcard version of life, almost too perfect. We started trying for a baby, or at least I believed we were. Month after month, she'd just shake her head with that same half smile and say, maybe next time. I didn't press. I figured stress wouldn't help anything. But in hindsight, all the clues were there, right out in the open. I just didn't want to see the cracks in a home I'd poured myself into. I trusted it would last. Right up until the day I came home early and felt a cold draft slip through a door I thought was airtight. It was a Thursday. I was supposed to be stuck late 2 towns over for a walkthrough at a construction site, but the meeting got scrapped last minute. I didn't text her. Thought it'd be nice to surprise her. Her car sat in the driveway when I pulled up, but the house was dark. Out of habit, I stepped inside quietly, and that's when I heard it. A man's voice, deep and close, followed by a laugh. Not mine, hers. That same laugh I used to think belonged to me. I froze halfway up the stairs. I really should go, the guy said. Stay a little longer, Nicholas, she murmured. Adam won't be back for hours. I didn't go charging in. Didn't raise my voice. I stepped outside, gently pulled the door shut behind me, and sat in my truck across the street. Just watched the house, the one I paid for, the one I thought was our safe place. I sat there for an hour, staring at the windows as their shadows moved inside. Then I saw him. He came out, tall, lanky, wearing a leather jacket like he thought he was somebody. I didn't know him. He leaned in and kissed her right there on the porch, like he had every right. Sable stood barefoot, arms hugging herself, glowing like someone who had everything she wanted. I clenched the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. That could have been the moment I lost control. Could have yanked him off the steps and made a scene. But I didn't. I waited until she was back inside, then drove off into the dark. I needed to breathe, to think. 2 blocks away, I pulled over and sat there in silence. And that's when it hit me, sharp and undeniable. The woman who lit candles over our dinners, who cried over negative pregnancy tests like they broke her heart. She'd been lying all along, and I hadn't seen a thing. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye, like the world hadn't shifted. I kissed her back, didn't let on. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I had something else in mind. On the way to work, I stopped at a hardware store and grabbed a few basic security cameras. Nothing elaborate, just enough to keep an eye on the main areas: living room, hallway, bedroom. That night, while she slept, I installed them all. Tucked behind picture frames, hidden inside vents, wedged under furniture. Tiny eyes she'd never notice. Over the next few days, I monitored everything from job sites, checking the footage on my phone during breaks. What I saw made my stomach turn. Nicholas came by like he had a key. Every afternoon, like clockwork. Sable welcomed him with open arms and led him straight to the bedroom. No hesitation, no guilt. I caught it all in snapshots. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, parked in my truck or sitting in the back of a trailer. My wife, laughing, stripping, whispering sweet things to another man in my house, in my bed. It wasn't a fling, it was a routine. I barely slept, ate just enough to function, but I kept myself steady, focused. I needed more than evidence. I needed justice. The following night, over dinner, I told her I'd need to travel for a few days, claimed a project had hit delays. Got called in last minute, I said, stabbing a piece of chicken with my fork. They want me on site. Sable didn't blink. Oh, okay. Just be careful, she replied, like I'd said I was running to the gas station. No worry, no curiosity. I could already see her mind moving, calculating when she could bring him over again, but I was one step ahead. After we ate, I called her parents, said I wanted to surprise Sable and fly them out for a visit. It had been a while since they'd seen her. They were delighted, said yes without a second thought. They thought I was being thoughtful, but I knew exactly what I was setting up, the moment they'd see who their daughter really was. Later that night, while Sable was in the shower, I slipped into the bathroom and picked up her phone from the counter. It opened with a touch. No password, no resistance. She never bothered to change her lock screen. Same numbers always. It took me all of 5 seconds to access her phone, and just like that, I saw everything. The newest messages lit up the screen. He flies out tomorrow. Gone for 3 days. Swing by. I'll make dinner. We'll have the whole place to ourselves, she added. Can't wait. Miss you already, he wrote back. I almost laughed. Everything was aligning just the way I needed. I pulled up the airline's website and booked 2 first-class seats. Her parents, Tiago and Luna, were due to land tomorrow. They thought they were flying in for a heartwarming surprise, a sweet, unexpected visit. But the real surprise? That would be waiting at the house. For all of them, including Sable. At daybreak, I was up and moving. Sable barely glanced in my direction as I zipped a small duffel. She floated through the kitchen like she was 17 again, light on her feet, humming some tune under her breath, full of anticipation. I swung the bag over my shoulder and leaned down to kiss her goodbye. She turned away without hesitation, letting the gesture hang in the air. See you soon, I said. Yeah, she mumbled, eyes on her phone. Text me when you land. I walked out without replying, drove less than 10 minutes and checked into a quiet, unassuming hotel. Nothing extravagant, just clean walls and silence. I dragged a chair over to the window, pulled out my phone, and opened the live feed I'd set up weeks ago. Right on cue. By midday, Nicholas's car pulled into the driveway. She met him at the door, barefoot, wrapped in one of my old t-shirts. No hesitation, no shame. I watched the screen without a flicker of emotion, just a tight burn behind my ribs. It was time. At precisely 3 o'clock, I left for the airport. Tiago and Luna stood at the curb with warm smiles, each carrying a small overnight bag. Adam! Luna beamed, wrapping me in a quick hug. She's going to be so happy to see us." "She doesn't suspect a thing," I replied as I loaded their luggage into the trunk. Tiago clapped me on the shoulder. "It's been too long. We've missed you both." The drive back was silent. I kept one eye on the road, the other occasionally on the live footage. Nicholas's car was still parked. The door to the upstairs bedroom hadn't opened. When we arrived, I cut the engine and turned in my seat to face them. "There's something I need to show you," I said quietly, "and something you deserve to hear." They looked at me, confused, but nodded. We slipped inside, the front door opening without a sound. I signaled for them to stay close and quiet. The air in the house was thick, heavy with perfume and something sour beneath it. My stomach twisted. Upstairs, faint moans floated down like whispers. Tiago stiffened beside me. Luna tightened her grip on his arm. I didn't let them hesitate. I walked straight up the stairs and shoved the bedroom door open. It slammed against the wall. There they were, Sable and Nicholas, tangled in sheets, caught mid-act, frozen. Her eyes went wide, mouth slightly open. Nicholas didn't move, his hand still resting on her leg. The room locked into stillness. All five of us held in that breathless second. Then Tiago's voice exploded. "What the hell is going on here?" Luna gasped, hands flying to her mouth. Sable fumbled for the blanket, pulling it up in a panic. "Adam, I can explain." "No," I said, my voice flat and sharp. "You can't." Nicholas made a sudden move toward his jeans, fumbling for words. I was already on him. I grabbed his arm and yanked him out of bed like he weighed nothing. "Get out of my house," I snarled. "Adam, come on." I slammed him into the doorframe hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I said now. He stumbled down the stairs, still barefoot, shirt half on. I followed just far enough to see him scramble into his car and peel out, tires screeching like hell was chasing him. Back upstairs, Sable was crying, robe barely tied, trying to speak through sobs. "Adam, please. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't want you to find out." Behind me, Tiago cut in, voice like thunder. "You mean you didn't want us to find out?" Luna stood beside him, shaking, tears streaming as she whispered, "We raised you better than this." Sable turned to them, pleading, "It's not what it looks like." That broke me. I laughed, cold and hollow. "That line? Seriously? With his sweat still on your skin, you're really going to look them in the eye and say that?" She dropped onto the edge of the bed, face buried in her hands. I didn't stop. I crossed to her closet and started tearing her clothes off hangers, stuffing them into a suitcase. "What are you doing?" she cried. "Packing," I said, never once meeting her eyes. "You're leaving. Today." Her parents didn't say a word. They just stood there, stunned and silent, exactly as planned. I zipped the suitcase closed with a violent snap. "You don't get to stay here," I said, voice like steel, "and you sure as hell don't get to cry your way out of this." She stood barefoot, clutching her robe, face streaked with tears, and I felt nothing. "Adam, please," she murmured, her voice raw with emotion. "Can we just speak? Just the two of us?" Tiago moved in, shoulders rigid, his jaw locked in fury. "You still don't understand, Sable," Luna said, voice unsteady with disappointment. "This wasn't just your shame to carry. You brought it to our doorstep. We stood by you. We believed in what you had." Sable shook her head violently, tears splattering across the floor. "It got out of hand. I never meant for it to end like this. I didn't want to hurt anyone." I looked at her, wordless. The woman in front of me was a stranger wearing her face. "You didn't want to hurt anyone?" I said, my voice slicing through the tension. "You hurt us every damn day. Every day you let him into our home." She collapsed, sobbing, her face buried in her palms as she sank to the floor. I didn't move to console her. I walked right past, grabbed the suitcase, dragged it down the stairs, and threw it onto the porch. When I came back, her sobs hadn't stopped, but her parents stood stiff and distant, arms crossed, eyes hollow. They said nothing, didn't reach for her. Tiago met my eyes. "If you need anything, we're here." I nodded once. "I appreciate it, but I've got this." Then I turned toward her. "Leave, Sable." She slowly rose, trembling, her robe slipping off her shoulder. "I don't have anywhere to go," she whispered. "That's not my problem," I replied, my tone empty. "You chose this path. Go walk it somewhere else." Tiago and Luna guided her out without a word. No goodbye, no comfort, just three shattered figures disappearing down the steps. I shut the door behind them and turned the lock, secured the bolt. For the first time in months, I could breathe. The following morning, I met with a divorce attorney. Days later, I returned to sign the paperwork. Didn't hesitate, didn't glance back. Sable was no longer my wife, just a decision I had finally reversed. The process moved quicker than I'd expected. Within a few months, the judge's signature made it official. No pushback, no dramatic hearing. She never even got a lawyer, made no claim on the house, asked for nothing. Maybe she understood what she'd done. Maybe she was just too drained to fight. Either way, it didn't matter. The house stayed mine. So did the truck. My life, once again, belonged to me. After the papers were finalized, I took a few days to reset. Cleared the bedroom out completely. Fresh coat of paint. New bedding. Every trace of her gone. It wasn't about holding on to rage. It was about scrubbing away the evidence of the betrayal. I didn't check up on her. Didn't stalk her socials. Didn't wonder where she landed. I just let it go. Last I heard, she was sleeping on a friend's couch in a different town. No job, no Nicholas. Even her parents had gone quiet. One evening, I sat out back with a cold beer, letting the stillness sink in. I thought about the first time I heard her laugh, how honest it seemed, how desperately I'd wanted it to be real, and then I remembered that final image, barefoot, broken, weeping like she was the one who'd been wronged. Funny, how clearly you can see a person when love no longer clouds your view. I took another sip and leaned back, letting the quiet night embrace me like something newly born. No bitterness, no sorrow, just silence. And in that stillness, I understood something deeply. Freedom has a sweetness no revenge could ever match. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.